Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I'll be showing you a card that I made using the Penny Black Love You stamp, the cute little girl that's holding the pillow. So let's get started. We're going to start off by using the Penny Black die set, and it's called the Snowflake Stitch Frames, and we're going to be using the two largest ones. So to start off, I'm going to be using some paper here from Elizabeth Craft, and it's the soft finished white cardstock, 100-pound weight. So it's a nice heavy weight, and it's got this beautiful soft finish to it, almost like a suede type finish. I'm going to place the two frames so that they're evenly spaced on that piece of paper. I just want to make sure the space between the frames is exactly the same all the way around. And then I'm going to run that through the Spellbinder's Platinum machine. This is the Platinum 6, which is the smaller version, but I have to say it cuts beautifully, just like the large one. I do own both, and I love both of them. So now I'm going to go ahead and take that smaller piece out, and we're just going to set that aside. You can use that for another project. What we want here is this frame. So it cuts this beautiful dotted frame. I know it's called a snowflake frame, but I think it's just beautiful for all year round. So now I'm going to cut a piece of that Elizabeth Craft paper, 4.5 by 9 inches, and we're making a card that will measure 4.5 by 4.5. So I'm going to score it there at the 4.5 mark, and I'm going to use my bone folder just to press that out and give it a nice crease. And like I said, that 100-pound cardstock is a nice weight to make the card out of as well. So now we've got those two pieces, and I decided for inside that frame, I'm going to use the Roses All Over Pastels Petite Paper Pad from My Favorite Things. And I'm going to be using this teal color. And I'm going to go ahead and cut that 4.5 by 4.5. And here I'm using the Tim Holtz paper trimmer, which does a beautiful job trimming. And I'm going to go ahead, and you can see there that's the Tim Holtz tonic cutter, and I'm going to go ahead and show you that that's going to fit nicely behind that frame. On this card, I'm going to try to match that teal color to the dress on the little girl, and you'll see that shortly. Now I want to stamp a sentiment behind the frame there. So I'm pulling out my Misti stamp positioner, and I'm leaving that frame on there just so I can figure out where I want the sentiment to go. And this is the set here, the Love You set from Penny Black with the little girl, and I'm going to be using that saying, "Love you to bits." And I'm going to just position that down in the corner there. Just trying to get that straight. And then once I have that straight, I can lift that frame right out because we don't need that in place. And I can go ahead and stamp that. I'm going to be using my Versafine black permanent ink. Even though it is a permanent ink, you'll see here that I'm going to stamp it twice. And the reason for that is, even though my first stamping came out perfectly fine, I decided I wanted to emboss it. So you'll see here I have my clear embossing powder, and I do have a gigantic bucket of it because I just like to be able to dip the card right into the container. Now I'm going to go ahead and stamp it again because I want to make sure that ink is nice and wet because it tends to dry quickly. So I'm just going to dunk that right into the embossing powder and tap off the excess. And now that I've got that all set, I'm going to go ahead and get my heat tool, and I'm going to go ahead and heat set that. And all I'm doing here is just to give it a little bit of a glossy finish to it. Now if you want it more embossed, you could stamp it, emboss it, leave it in your positioner, stamp it again, and then put more embossing powder on it. But I thought it looked fine just like that. Gave it that glossy finish that I was going for. So now I've got the pattern paper, the card. I'm going to go ahead and attach that pattern paper right to the card. And I'm going to use my score tape, the 1/4 inch score tape. And I'm just going to place that around all 4 sides and a couple little pieces in the center there, just to make sure, because this is the base, I want everything to stay nicely and in place. So once I have that with the tape on it, I'm going to go ahead and remove the backings of the tape. Now you could use glue here if you're afraid that you won't position it correctly the first time, but it is going to be underneath, so if I needed to trim any off, I could easily do that. So I'm just lining up the bottom edge and the two corners and then positioning that down. Now for the frame, I'm going to use some glue here. I'm using the Nuvo Deluxe Adhesive, and the reason for this is because I do want to be able to move it around a little bit if I don't get it in the right spot the first time. So whereas that underneath layer, the pattern paper, I knew that I could trim away excess if I needed to. But here, I'm going to need to slide this exactly into place. So I'm putting plenty of adhesive on here, just making sure that it doesn't lift up. And I'm going to go ahead and put that in place. And you can see here that I am able to move it around just a little bit to slide it right into position. So again, our card is 4.5 by 4.5. And I like to use a piece of scrap paper whenever I'm pressing something down, because my hands tend to get covered in glue and ink and glitter and all that. This way I can just press it into place without getting it, dirty. So now I'm going to take 140-pound cold press Canson watercolor paper, and I'm just taking a small piece of it here, and I'm going to stamp that little girl on this piece of watercolor paper. Now the reason I'm putting it on watercolor paper is because I do want to be coloring this with my Spectrum Noir Sparkle Pens, and they are a water-based pen. So I'm using permanent ink that won't bleed or smear when it gets wet. I'm putting a nice coating of the ink on there. I'm going to go ahead and stamp that. Now you'll see that I did get a really good stamping the first time, but sometimes with the watercolor paper, because it is so textured, you do have to do it a couple of times. So that's why I use the positioner here. So now I'm going to go ahead and color her in. And again, I'm going to be using the Spectrum Noir Sparkle Pens, and I have a bunch of different sets. And these are the ones that I've chosen to color her with. I will show you the colors as we go along here, just so you know what I'm using. And since I only have a few sets, and you can see here that I have 5 sets in the set of clear, I'm going to make do with what I have. And my challenge for myself today was to try to make do with the pens that I had. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Solar Red and the Pink Garnet to do the highlighting with. And it's not the ideal colors, but I wanted to challenge myself, and I really think we should do that with the supplies that we have. Try to see what you can do with what you have. It doesn't have to be perfect, because we have so many supplies and we always think we need more. I know I'm the same exact way. I want everything that's out there. But today I thought, I love these pens, and I just wanted to be able to blend with the ones that I own. So I do want to collect more of them, though, so I can caveat that by saying I do want more of them, of course. So I'm starting off with the Solar Red, and I'm just going to color in the entire pillow here with that red color. And these, you can't see it yet, but you will see it later when I hold it up. It's just the most beautiful sparkle. I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous. So now I'm going to take the amethyst, and I'm going to use that for my highlighting. I'm sorry, that's the Pink Garnet color that I'm using there to do the highlighting. And I'm just going to place that where the shadows might be on the pillow. And now I'm going to use the clear to do my blending. I'm using it almost as a blender pen. If you're familiar with blending with water-based markers, typically you'll have a blender pen to pull the colors together. And I'm using the clear color to do that blending for me. And I'm just using it to pull those colors up and blend that in. And you can see there that I'm getting a pretty nice blend. Now, if you didn't think you wanted to blend with these two, you could always come in with a water-based marker to do some more highlighting. But again, I was challenging myself to use these particular pens. So I'm going to go back. I thought that needed to blend in a little bit better. So I'm going back in with that first color, the Solar Red. And I'm just going to apply a little bit more and darken it up a bit. And then I'm going to pull those colors together. And you see off to the side there on a scrap piece of paper, I'm just getting off the excess ink. If you get too much ink on the clear pen, just go to your scrap paper and scribble until that goes clear again. That way you're not dragging the colors around too much. So now I wanted to do her dress. I'm going to use the Ocean Wave, and the second color I'll use will be the Sea Breeze, which is the lighter shade. So I'm starting with the Sea Breeze. I'm just going to apply that all over her dress. And I want this little dress to match my background pattern paper. So I'm going to put it on the sleeves there as well. Now I'm going to take the second color, which is that Ocean Wave color. I did have to say that I found this pen to be very, very wet, so you can see that I'm just dabbing it on, and I did try to take some color off on the scrap paper there as well. So check your pens before you go to the paper, because that particular color, like I say, was extremely wet. So I was able to start pulling that color down, and I kind of wanted to go in the direction of the way the dress would be flowing. And I am cleaning off the pen as I go. Just trying to, dab off that excess color. I'm going to dab a little bit more there in that fold and pull that in. I thought it needed just a little bit more darkness there up at the top, so I added a little bit more color. And cleaning off my pen, I'm just blending those two together. And I thought these two particular colors really blended nicely. I thought they were beautiful together. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with her sleeve, just kind of pulling that color down, dabbing off the excess color there, and getting my highlight, which would be the darker area right around, the pillow where she's holding the pillow. Now for the boots, I'm going to do the same thing. I wanted the light to kind of be coming a little bit from the left there. So I'm doing the lighter color towards the left side of her boots. And then I'm going to take that darker color, and since it is so wet, I decided just to dab it along those edges, just a couple little dots down the side so that I didn't get too much. You can always add more. So here I'm just going to start pulling that over into the lighter color. And then try to pull those two together. Just taking that darker one, pulling it in, and trying to blend them the best I can there. And I think you get the effect. You get the highlights and the lowlights there. So now for the stripes on her little stockings, I'm just going in with that lighter color, and I'm just going to apply it on every other of the little lines there on her tights. And then I'm going to use the, going back to the Solar Red, I'm going to do the other little areas. And I am darkening up the right side just a little bit where it would be a little bit darker, but it really was so tiny that it really didn't matter. So you can certainly skip that step. Adding a little bit of red to the buttons on the boots. And now I'm going to take the Sand Dune color, which is kind of a tan goldy color. It was really the only color that I had in this collection that was appropriate for a hair color. So I decided it was fine, and it actually looked really cute. There's very little bit of the hair that you actually have to color in on her. So it was just fine. Um, the hair is braided, so I'm just dabbing in the color here and there. Now I wanted to do her face, so I'm taking rose quartz and the Cosmos color, starting with the rose quartz, which is kind of a peachy tone, a bit of a skin tone, and I'm going to do her whole face with this color and her ears. And then with the Cosmos color, which is a pinky tone, I'm going to just do the little cheeks, a little bit on her lips. And I thought she should look a little bit more like she was blushing. So I decided to add a little bit more to her forehead. And I'm just blending that out with the lighter color here, just bringing the two colors together. Now I'm going to do her arms. I did have a little bit of pink from the pillow on her finger there. So you can see that with the pen, I'm just kind of picking it up and dabbing it off to the side. Really just removing it. And it blended in perfectly well. You couldn't tell at all. So I'm blending that little pinky color into her arms. And there you can see the sparkle. And isn't it beautiful? I just love these pens. They're absolutely gorgeous and they're so easy to blend. So now I wanted to trim her out, but it would be difficult to cut around her hair completely. So I decided that I would leave a little white border all the way around, and then I can easily go around her hair without too much detail work involved. And you can see that as I'm cutting, I'm moving the paper, not my scissors so much, but I'm turning the paper. And I'm trying to hold the paper in areas where there's no coloring because I don't want to move that ink around. I mean, it is still wet, so I want to be careful and not transfer that ink anywhere. So I'm, again, moving the paper around and, going in and out of the hair just to give the effect that I have actually cut it out and, with more detail than I actually am here. This was very easy to do and very quick. And I do enjoy cutting, so, if you don't, just don't cut it so close. Maybe, cut it a little bit more outside the edges, a little bit wider out so it's not so tedious. But like I said, I really didn't find it that difficult. It went along pretty quickly and was pretty easy to do. Other than the hair, that took a bit more time. So now I've got her all set and colored out. You can see how cute she is. And again, I didn't fuss a lot here. So now what I want to go ahead and do is put some Scotch photo mounting tape on the back. And I want to make sure I use plenty of it to make sure that all those little pieces around her hair and her feet and everything stay in place, as it's getting mailed. So I'm going to remove the backing from all of that tape there, and I'm going to position that right towards the left side of that sentiment. And like I said, her little dress matches the paper, the background paper there. So I wanted the heart to be the focal point. And that looks pretty good. I decided to add a few sequins, and I'm using the 28 Lilac Lane. And that particular color set is called Seaside Holiday. And it's a mixture of blues and tans and sandy colors, and it actually has some little shell designs in there as well. It's really beautiful. I think these sequins are really nice, and I love the little tin that they come in. It's easy to use, easy to see what you have. You don't have to pour everything out to see what's in there. So now I'm just deciding where I want all those little sequins to be. It's kind of hard to see on camera, but some of the sequins are a little bit lighter and some are darker than others. So I'm just trying to determine where to put them. Now I'm using the Ranger multimedia glue to attach these. And I've chosen this because it is a glue that will hold just about anything down, and it does dry crystal clear. So I've got all those glued in place here now. And that just adds a little bit more sparkle to an already sparkly card. But now I'm going to take my white Jelly Roll pen and I'm just adding little highlights to the top of the pillow there. And the white will absorb a little bit of that color underneath, so if you have to go over it a few times, you know, you can do that. Here I'm just adding a little bit more highlighting to her tights. I just thought it needed a little bit more there. So now I wanted to show you that I had done a second card in the lilac colors, and in this case I had the pillow match the background paper. It's the same paper pad from my favorite things, but these sequins are from Neat and Tangled, and the name is the Fairy Garden Sequin Mix, and they're just beautiful. I mean, I love all the pastels anyway, and I just thought these were really pretty. So I wanted to show you the sparkle pens I used, and in this case I used the Fig and the Amethyst for the pillow. And those blended together really well. And then for the dress, I used Emerald Green and Sage. And those two I thought blended nicely as well. And I used the clear again to do the blending. Everything else was the same, the hair, the skin tone, everything. So these are the two cards side by side with the pink pillow and the lavender pillow. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe, and visit me again at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. Thanks so much and have a great day.